Today, we're making salmon teriyaki, an extremely simple dish and it's very easy to make. First, we make the teriyaki sauce. If you've seen my other teriyaki recipes, you would have noticed that I always like to cook the meat in the sauce itself. But with fish, it's a different story. 10 seconds, it's a lifetime for cooking fish. We'll cook the fish separately and glaze it with our teriyaki sauce. So, to make our teriyaki sauce, we have a holy trinity of Japanese sauces. We have our soy sauce, we have our mirin, which is a sweet Japanese rice wine, and we have sake. The fundamental ingredients for a teriyaki sauce is always just the mirin and the soy sauce. So if you're just making it once, I would happily ditch the sake. I normally use it to adjust the thickness of the sauce. In the traditional recipe, it also calls for sugar, but I think we can avoid using refined sugar by reducing the mirin to a glaze and using a bit of caramelized onions. We have half an onion and we slice it relatively thin. Now we have a saucepan here, medium-high heat, a bit of vegetable oil to help us get started. You can use any neutral oil. Onions go in. What we want to do here now is that we're evaporating the water content of the onions. And that will give us a natural sweetness together with the mirin for our teriyaki sauce. We add a bit of salt, not really even to season, but just to help the onions release its moisture. Outside of Japan, teriyaki sauce nowadays is mostly associated with chicken, with beef, but the recipe predates the name itself, and it was a sauce for eel in Hokkaido. Still, to this day in Japan, it works mostly with oily fish because the strength, the savouriness of the soy sauce and the sweetness of the mirin balance really well with the fish oil that is slightly burnt from the charcoal, which is normally how teriyaki dishes are made. People often think, oh, barbecue cooks everything better, or charcoal cooks everything better. Not necessarily. Charcoal works the best with oily stuff. It is the dripping of oil hitting the charcoal that creates the smoke. The smoke is what's giving the meat, the fish, that distinct flavor that you associate with charcoal grilling. If you're grilling without any fat, the benefit is kind of negligible. You want to cook until there's no harshness in the smell and the onions are translucent and the sweetness are coming through. Once the onion is translucent and the smell of harshness is completely gone, we have one optional step, which I like to do, is that we tilt the pan and we skim off the excess oil, because we don't need that anymore. And I really don't need a layer of oil on top of my teriyaki sauce, especially when it's such an oily fish. To build on the sweetness of the onions, we have some mirin, Japanese sweet wine. This not only gives us this natural sweetness, but also the texture. As you'll see, once this reduces down, it'll take on a syrupy texture that you associate with most teriyaki sauce. Once the alcohol has mostly evaporated and you get a syrupy texture, that's when we add our soy sauce. Already it's coating the saucepan. That's the power of the mirin. And that's my whole point. You don't even need the sake. This already is a beautiful teriyaki sauce. Now, because we're glazing the salmon, instead of cooking it in the sauce, I would reduce it more than I would for my meat dishes. Once it's coating the back of the spoon, I don't even need to touch it because of the sugar content. It's gonna burn me. This is when we know it's ready. We pass this through a sieve. Now we set this beautiful glaze aside to keep warm while we deal with the salmon. Now, with salmon teriyaki, if possible, I would almost always go for the belly side, or at least if you're buying from the fishmonger, ask them for the part of the salmon that's the closest to the head. That's when you would get the most fatty belly. This is what's gonna give us the burnt fish oil taste that resembles the charcoal grilled salmon that you have in Japan for the real salmon teriyaki. Now, with any store-bought fish, we check for the pin bones, because nowadays fishmongers don't care anymore. Another thing is, If possible, I would almost always have it with the skin, because this, again, is what's going to give us more of the charcoal flavors, the burnt flavors that you associate. Hot pan, and one optional step during cooking, we're going to torch the fatty part of the salmon to give us that burnt fat smell. A bit of high smoke point oil, in this case vegetable oil, to help it get started. With any fish recipe, I always like a couple of slices of ginger in the beginning to infuse with the oil, to remove the unwarranted fishiness. It also helps you gauge how hot the pan is. We take our salmon, skin side down, and we lay it away from us. And we press gently with a fish spatula to maximize the contact between the skin and the hot pan, to give us the caramelization and the Maillard reaction, protein reacting with high heat. Now, once you've ensured maximum contact, we reduce the heat to medium, and we want to cook the fish mostly on one side. That would give us the crispy skin, a bit of the burnt flavors from the skin side. Now, on the flesh side, you see the white stripes. This is the belly fat of the salmon. If you happen to have a blowtorch, I wouldn't buy a blowtorch for this, by the way, yeah? But if you happen to have a blowtorch, we follow the fat, but nothing else. We're trying to have burnt fat, not burnt fish. As you can see, the fat is now rendering, giving us the smell of a Japanese barbecue. Charcoal with fish. You can see the surface. We're burning the fat, not the flesh. Once the white stripes have disappeared, that's it, no more. Back to a gentle sizzle. And with salmon, the beauty is, with single-sided searing, because the color gradient changes, you can almost judge how cooked the salmon is by looking at the side. What we want is for the salmon to be 70% cooked before we flip for the other side to kiss the pan, and we have dinner. Now, while the salmon's gently cooking, we prepare some garnish. We have some scallion here. You can use chives, anything that gives the dish some brightness. Because of the sweetness of the teriyaki sauce and the fattiness of the belly, we're going to use both the scallion white and the scallion green. Now, almost there, we can turn. Beautiful. Now, just like the belly fat, once again, with the skin, optional step. Don't sweat if you don't have it. All the underskin fat is now slightly burnt. Beautiful. Now, stove off. We take out our salmon. Now, we have our teriyaki sauce. That is so thick that it's almost like honey. And we just add a tiny bit at a time. First, we glaze the skin side, and we glaze the other side. When I say glaze, I really mean it. Now, let's plate. Some steamed rice. It's so oily, you really need rice for this dish. Place on the other side. And to that, we have all the scallion that we just sliced. It looks like a lot, but trust me, there's never enough. And there you have it, teriyaki salmon. No sugar, no charcoal, no problem. I really hope you enjoy.